YNW Melly is about to be gone forever. Prosecutors have now dropped 178 new documents of evidence to the judge in this case. Evidence from witnesses, as well as YNW Sackchaser's mother. This is now looking very concerning for Melly. At his latest court hearing on March 17th, YNW Melly and his lawyers were handed over once again a massive booklet involving evidence they have on the Florida rapper. Now, due to this happening, the official trial has now been pushed back to May 23rd, 2022. The most important evidence in these new files are words from YNW Sackchaser's mother. YNW Melly's lawyer asks Sackchaser's mom, "I would like you to tell me what information you have gathered to show that this felony was committed for a pecuniary gain." Sackchaser's mother's lawyers then reply, "Please tell me what your definition of pecuniary gain is." Melly's lawyers then say, "By statute, it means he committed this crime to make money or what have you." They then reply saying, "Well, there was, in throughout a search warrant through Facebook, as well as through Jana Williams' testimony, there was money that was going to be brought to or was going to be awarded to Anthony Williams, aka YNW Sackchaser. Mr. Williams was supposed to get about $200,000. That was in text messages and also, I believe, in Facebook messaging, as well as the mother's testimony, and that money apparently was never obtained by Mr. Williams." Melly's lawyers then reply, "Okay, do you know who was going to allegedly pay that $200,000 to Mr. Williams?" They reply, "Well, I believe it was going to go through the record label. How it's paid out, I don't know." Around the time YNW Sackchaser passed, his music career was just taking flight. Dropping hit songs such as Tropical and Backend, it got the attention of YNW Melly and his music label. According to reports, they claim that YNW Melly did the act towards YNW Sackchaser to avoid paying him $200,000 to join his record label. Now, if this turns out to be true, YNW Melly will then be eligible for the penalty as he used money as a motive. This explains why the prosecutors aren't interested in putting YNW Melly behind bars for life. They instead want the penalty, as the parents of YNW Juvie and YNW Sackchaser want justice for what happened to their boys. Now, in the new pages of evidence, they're claiming that after running ballistics reports, all signs of who did the act towards YNW Juvie and YNW Sackchaser were sitting in YNW Melly's seat inside of the vehicle. Now, here's the photo of where everyone was sitting inside of the car. YNW Bortland, being the driver of the vehicle, had YNW Melly sitting directly behind him, with YNW Juvie and YNW Sackchaser sitting on the opposite side of the car. Using what's called the stick method, they used plastic sticks to match the trajectory of the firearm that could have been used from YNW Melly's seat. Now, the trajectory from Melly's seat showed a perfect match to where YNW Sackchaser and Juvie were affected once brought to the hospital for examination. Also, in the new evidence reports, it claims that once the act was done inside of the vehicle, law enforcement were able to use YNW Melly's cell phone as a GPS tracking device. They were able to tell that Melly ended up stepping out of the vehicle and walking around it in a 360-degree motion around the same time that law enforcement believes the act was done. The theory is, after the act was done in the vehicle, YNW Melly stepped out of the car and roughed it up from the outside using his firearm to make it appear as if the car just went through a drive-by. Now, this theory seems true, as allegedly there was firearm shells that were found outside in the grass and cement, and it matches the same firearm shells that were found under the floor mats where YNW Melly was sitting inside of the car. Now, on the day of Sackchaser and Juvie's passing, law enforcement claim after a late night recording session, the four YNW boys hopped inside of their Jeep and started heading home around 3:30 a.m. With YNW Bortland being the driver of the vehicle, he was taking an off-road home and then pulling into a side parking lot where nobody was in sight, as well as no street cameras were near. They believe a distraction was made inside of the vehicle that caught Juvie and Sackchaser off guard. Meanwhile, YNW Melly did the act towards both of them in the vehicle. Now they believe this as YNW Melly sent his girlfriend interesting text messages for the last week after it happened, as well as a video on YNW Melly's cell phone of him literally admitting to doing it. But the interesting part was after the act was done, YNW Bortland alone drove Sack Chaser and Juvie to the hospital. Meanwhile, YNW Melly ended up sprinting home as law enforcement were able to tell from using his phone as a GPS. Now the rest of the hard-hitting evidence against Melly states, and I quote, "Then also, we have a video of Mr. Demons admitting to doing an act towards two individuals in the head." Now I had to change a few words in that statement, but you probably understand at what I'm trying to say. Now in the next document it states, "This video was on Mr. Demon's cell phone, which was brought to my office by Jameson Francis, and that is how we had that, and that is all of the evidence that Your Honor has." Now this is where it gets interesting. First off, Mr. Demons in these documents is YNW Melly, and Jameson Francis is YNW Melly's music manager known as 100K Management. It turns out he was the man holding YNW Melly's cell phone while he has been in jail. Law enforcement puts a warrant out for the cell phone, so he had to bring it in or else he would also be arrested for holding evidence. Now law enforcement can do something called a data extract. This means they can pull anything and everything that was ever on that cell phone. This means deleted text messages, deleted photos, even Snapchats will be brought back, and law enforcement can use this as evidence against YNW Melly. As in the next court document, it states the cell phone evidence is the biggest part of this entire case. Now the next court document it states, these particular cell phones, which were both iPhone 10s, were on the T-Mobile network. And so T-Mobile has a very interesting feature where it will tell you the environment the cell phone is in. So from these cell phone records, I can tell you the exact moment Demons got out of the car and staged the drive-by location. Now this is huge, as personally, I didn't know cell phone providers can go back in time. Law enforcement has every tool they possibly need to put YNW Melly behind bars for life. So not only does law enforcement have evidence that YNW Melly may have slipped up and told someone over text message or the video on his cell phone of him literally admitting it, but now they can use YNW Melly's cell phone as a GPS tracking device, watching his every single move, going back in time to see when he went somewhere and at exactly what time. It's very interesting as he didn't show up to the hospital with YNW Bortland with the two other rappers. Instead, YNW Melly sprinted home on foot. Now make sure you subscribe if you're new. It's been District Trending, and I'm out. Peace.